Way, Andrew and Kieran, how you doing, guys?
I'm all right, thanks, Cybosh. How are you?
I'm doing great. I was doing some New South Wales style gold standard technology over here. That's why this took so long to get started.
You look fantastic with a new shave, mate. I'm really proud of you.
I actually did it today specifically for you.
I think that was directed at me, but okay.
You're clearly not shaved. Or are you? What's been happening? What's happening in New South Wales?
So today was the
leading
day.
state in Australia, the gold standard.
The time Donald Bradman would be proud, man.
We hit the magic 1,000 today, but you guys might be laughing at us now, but we're setting the standard so that when you guys are ready to open up like we do and let everything wreak havoc, you'll just be following us, man. So follow our lead, sheeple.
In this current circumstance, we have followed your lead.
You're welcome.
Specifically, camera. How you going, Kieran?
Man, we're good. We had, 9 cases today? So we're single digit. No, that was yesterday. I think we had 14 today. But majority were linked. We're good. We're going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're safe. September 2nd, we're out, man. We're back to normal. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So today's Thursday. I don't know when we'll post this up, but I think I've actually got approval to run this show next Sunday without a crowd. So I don't know. Like the number of fights is somewhat reduced to what we started, but man, I reckon if I could live stream my kids fighting each other, I'd probably do it.
And I'd probably pay.
Won't someone think about this, children?
I've paid to see a lot worse lately, man. So
I got a title bell here I could put on as well, but we'll save that.
Nice.
Let's just say I've seen less specific regional belts in Victoria than the one I'd put in between my kids and mine. How you going, Kieran? Your first taste of lockdown since last year?
And this is the first one we had since March last year. How wild is that? No lockdowns, no. The most we had was when Sydney started to be the new Melbourne. They brought in, we had to wear masks as like a safety requirement. Yeah. That was the only sort of limitation that we had. We haven't had anything since. So
yeah, it's hard to believe because Canberra is such a happening place too. You'd think it would be the epicenter.
It's the real God's country, man. Andy always says to me, Sydney's God's country, but I never, I just don't get it.
The first time I met Kieran properly. No, not the first time. I met you at Rebellion 5, but I think I came over for Warrior FC and you picked us up after you got lost in the airport. And then we kept driving. It was my first time in Canberra. And I said, we're driving through some streets. And I said to Kieran, I'm like, so how far off are we from the CBD here? He goes, this is the CBD. I was like,
do you reckon the reason for the lack of cases is because they've got that tunnel thing?
They've got a tunnel?
Yeah. Like, do you remember how they were stealing babies and stuff from the COVID tents? Have you guys got that shit going on?
We're not going to talk about that
stuff.
Oh,
sorry. Okay. All good.
Just going to appreciate the quality of connection we have right now.
Okay.
And we're not going to put it down to anything.
Okay. Well done.
We've been staying in touch with each other a lot. We've kind of been keeping each other sane/insane. And I thought, I haven't done the Rebellion podcast for a while, but this might be a good idea for us to start doing something together because we're fairly opinionated. And, speaking to Andrew's wife, Art, I think we just need to find stuff for him to do. So we're like his designated play date once a week. It's like, can you give me one ride?
So he doesn't hurt himself on the skateboard.
Yeah. If you ever hear he had an accident on the skateboard, it's a Epstein style cover up. Andrew's Epsteined himself, but he had a skateboard accident.
And plenty of people in Muay Thai be posting about it in no time.
Oh my God. Well, we all know what would have actually happened. It would have been a side effect, right?
Absolutely.
So guys, I thought we'll be good if this keeps going, depending who gets out of lockdown first, to get to a set format that we can use, and then we'll obviously have our general chit chat too. And one of the things I thought we could start doing, due to kind of a lack of a widely recognized rankings in Australia, would be to start thinking about different weight classes and ranking who we think are the top guys. Obviously, we like to think we know what we're talking about. It doesn't mean everyone should agree with it, but there's plenty of options in comments and the forums and stuff for guys to disagree with what we're saying. But I thought we'll start at the bottom and kick it off. So at 57 kilos and below in Australia, we'll go with the boys to start today, and then maybe next time we can start at the lower weight divisions for the girls. But 57 kilo guys in Australia, Kieran, who's your top guys?
57 is one of those. I mean, you kind of have to prompt me on this one, because I feel like we've got a few divisions where there's maybe one or two guys that stand out. Some who maybe have been retired for a while and have maybe jumped up a bit heavier. 57's a hard one to comment on. I think
the reason I said 57 was because, like, 55, we really have the guys that could legitimately fight 55 would be Brody, who I don't know if he's still fighting. And then we've got
Corey Nicholson.
Then, we've got Blair's Cambodian boy, Moo, who's like, he could fight 52, 53. We've got Kay Howe here. So those guys would be 55, but that's, they don't really get that many fights at 55. And then at 57, we'd have, Ibi,
Rocky,
Josh King, obviously, Lucky, and those guys.
Rocky would arguably probably be the one at 57 at the moment.
I don't think arguably. I think he's definitely the number one.
Yeah.
What's Josh's lightest?
Yeah, Josh Tonner.
57. Well, Josh would be Joshy could go 57 for one, considering the size of some of the boys that are in there. When you start to, we had him in obviously at that higher weight division, but I.
So Joshy, what weight does he fight? What is he fighting at one?
57.
57. That's with the hydration and stuff.
That's with the hydration.
Do you see a difference between if he could go for it here and cut stupid cut weight? Would he get lower? No. Do you think it makes a big difference?
No, I don't think it would.
Yeah. So it'd be Josh and Rocky top two.
Josh and Rocky.
And then that next stage would be guys like your boy, Ibi. And then where would Corey sit in that? Corey Nicholson. I've only, to be honest, I've seen Corey recently. The last two times I've seen him fight was one against Moo, who he was a lot bigger but had a lot more experience then. And then the fight before that, I saw him fight one of Tim's ties from Sitsong Penong from what's it called now? Evolution.
Yeah.
Yep. And he fought him on Eruption, at which me and Toby and like Nugget was sitting next to each other. I think we thought the Thai won fairly clearly, but I think
I'll watch that.
Yeah. So that's what I've seen, but I don't know how it would go with someone like Rocky and Josh. I'd probably put him underneath those guys.
And Brody, I remember when he fought Brody too.
Because they fought a couple of times.
I think the most recent time he stopped Brody.
Yeah.
If I remember right, yeah.
But is Brody retired?
I think so.
Yeah.
Surely. I don't know. Maybe.
I think he's announced.
Just pop back up again. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe if
Yeah.
Who knows? I remember. Yeah.
And then there's that boy Josh King.
Josh is heavier now at 59.
All right.
He fought Ibi at I think 59 or 60 or something like that. Man, he's going to be good, eh? He's
good. He impressed me on his fight against Ibi.
Yeah.
How old is he?
17 or 18, man. But he's out of 57 now. He can't make 57 from what I understand. Same with Alex Pap. He used to be lighter as well.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of these guys like Zach, Sian or Kieran, how do you pronounce it? But all those guys now have all shuffled up to that 59 to 61 mark now.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of guys at around that way. It's going to be pretty sick if Borders. Well, fuck, we're not going to be allowed in there ever again. But when every other state opens up, woo.
What was Zach and Kieran at the other week on Blair's show?
63.
That was 63.
Really? I thought that, or was it 61?
No, it would have had to been 61 because they fought for the Aussie title.
The title.
Yeah, and Jordan's the 63.5 kilo.
That's
guy.
right. Sorry, 61. Yeah.
Okay. And then we've got Kayhow in Victoria, who's, he's tough and he's coming up, but he hasn't got the fight experience yet to be mixing. He was going to fight Rocky on Eruption next week, just simply because they had to find someone. And, I spoke to Paul and I was like, look, Kayhow will take it as a tough kid. Like if you saw his fight with Van on my show a couple of years ago, I mean, he got head kicked flush twice and came up and kept going.
Where is Van now?
Van is supposed to fight on the show next week. So he was going to fight Chris Newen at 61 kilos, but Chris got injured as well. So that fight's off. But Van could do 59 to 61. His ideal weight is probably 59. So I think that's the weight he fought, because you guys saw him fight Rocky at Eruption I think that was at 59 kilos. And I think he's got the skill and timing, but I just don't think he's got that speed and power and sort of that tenacity of that high level guys yet.
Not yet.
There's a big gap, isn't there, between those guys that are like the couple at the top and then the next run down. To me, there's a massive gap.
Yeah. Same with Ibi. Yeah. Like we've been offered the fight, but he's not ready for that yet.
Yeah, but it makes it hard. So like for someone like Ibi, he was going to fight Jen on my show before you guys Gladys the whole thing. But like, what choices? Like, I mean, obviously fighting someone like Jen's a completely different thing to fighting fighting Rocky. So like for you, what was the thinking between saying yes to one and no to the other?
Style of fight.
Yeah.
That's the big one. The Rockies, you watch what happened when Rocky fought. It might have looked even in the opening rounds, but it was never going to be even. I'm sorry. It was, I mean, he fought really well, but it was just like loaded, and every shot's hard and he really goes for it. I'm not saying that Jen's not going to be that way, but stylistically, he's a technician. He could knock you out with anything anyway, but it's just going to be that different type of fight. And I don't think that Ibi was ready for that, like physically ready for that type of fight yet, like not strong enough. Maybe down the line, well, definitely down the line, I reckon, but just not yet, He could fight him, but... And
Jen is one of those fights where Ibi can get beaten and outclassed technically, but isn't going to get hurt the way that Rocky would hurt him.
I think so, personally, but yeah.
Yeah. When Melbourne was still kind of open and Queensland was potentially an option, and Paul moved his show from, he cancelled his show from next week because they're having sort of opponent issues and stuff. I sort of spoke to Nugget briefly, and I sort of floated the idea of Rocky and Jen fighting. How do you guys see a fight like that going?
Part of me kind of sees that Jen fights up to 57, right? But is it Rocky the same?
They've asked me to match him between 57 and 59.
Oh, pretty sick fight, I reckon.
Yeah.
I don't know what weight. 57 would be the best fight if they can meet it at 57, because Jen, I know, can get lighter than 57. So if they go up to 59, then they're giving Rocky the weight.
Yeah.
But he'd train for that, man, and he'd be pretty skillful. So it'd be a pretty sick fight to watch, I reckon. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, because you guys saw when Alexis Raposa's fought Jen, that made for a fairly entertaining fight because Alexi really just went after him.
Yeah. Yeah, it was mad.
Yeah. All right. So we'd sort of say if you had to pick it, Andy, obviously Kieran's a bit biased between Rocky and Josh. Would you put as number one?
Rocky, I will. Sorry.
I'm nothing personal. I'm cool. I'm cool. Man. I'm
But
cool.
I just, I haven't seen Josh fight enough personally. I wish there were fights for him.
Yeah. I think just man, it's hard, but yeah, I think I'd probably go Rocky and then Josh Donner, then Josh King. Ibby and Josh King.
I'm going Ibby because Josh can't make 57 anymore.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, it's you. I wish those weight classes there was a few more guys around because it'd be a sick, busy weight division. It would be a great division to keep busy.
Well, we have the exact same problem with 57 at the girls as well, right?
Yeah.
We have the same problem in that we only have a few, and then the difference between the top and then the next rung down is massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even. Yeah. Well, fuck. 57 chicks. Do you want to go boy, girl, boy, girl?
Yeah, well, let's since you brought it up, let's bring up that 57 kilo division for the girls as well. So we've obviously got Diandra, Tiff Lamb, Brittany, Dorgai, Natalie Pavlidis. There's a couple of other girls up in WA, aren't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with the females. It just unfortunately seems like you get the top tier and then a massive gap and then a whole stack of them like scattered, unfortunately, like talent pool wise.
But I think like that's, before I think we had, I did a 70 kilo 8-man. What was it? Scotty fought on.
Yeah.
A few years ago. And there was 10 guys that you could put on just from even the eastern states that were sort of around that level. And I think what's started to happen in the last few years, that depth has really fallen off. Like you think about any division now, even 63.5, now you've lost Roy and Lloyd Dean, essentially. Matt Smith's retired, not that he could make that weight. You've got River, Ramesh, Jordan Gottfredson, and who else? So like, I think that's happening a bit. Then I've got like, there's a whole lot of guys in Victoria between 1 and 6 fights.
Yeah.
At top range. And I think that's happening in all the weight classes. You look at 70 super middleweight, all those weight divisions, there's like top guys, 2 or 3, and then it's like big gap. And I think that's what's going to be hard with border closures because you can bring guys in to fight these guys.
I think that's the whole COVID thing, right? And like same 55 chicks, 53 is the same. Like the lesser fight experience guys are the one. Well, they're all suffering because they can't rack up the experience to be able to take on the big guys now. And I don't know, it's a bit scary. Like, yeah.
I think what it highlights is that we have a broken pathway in taking people from that. Like too many people are falling off in the middle, and there's only a handful of people at the top because we know what it's like. The pay is retrospective to the time that you put in, the effort, the this, the that, the recognition. Like it's no wonder people drop off, and so that time between. Like we clearly have like a pathway development issue in that middle in trying to get.
Well, Andrew's mob's supposed to be in charge of pathways, not us.
You can't open.
MTA's meant to be doing the pathways, bro.
And clean.
No, you're right, and it is, and it's like those guys get their first 5 or 6 fights out, get it all out of their system, and stop fighting, and then 1 or 2 guys just keep pattering along and going up. It's not dragging enough through. So hopefully that's something we can change. All right, guys. So I think we've covered that pretty well. The next thing we're going to go through, guys, is our weekly hot topic. And I left that completely up to you guys. And Kieran wanted to talk about titles for some reason.
What you got, big dog?
Man, I think there is a place for titles in the sport because I believe that fighters should have something to aim for. In the same way that if you go to play rugby league, You don't just play without the intention. Like, you want to win, right? You want to win the premiership. And I think fighters should absolutely have the equivalent. I don't.
Can you explain to Andrew what a premiership is? I don't think he's seen one for a while. We've got the Melbourne Storm here, so I understand. But I just for
State
Andrew,
of Origin, we won that. We got that State of Origin. Yeah,
that's a premiership.
That's as good as
It's
we got.
still something, man. It's still something. It's still something.
Who are you with, Parramatta Eels or Tigers?
The Tigers, are you? Tigers.
I genuinely don't know. Tigers?
Fucking piss taking. I go for Tigers. Western Suburbs is my thing, but I'm stuck in this fucking Parramatta LGA. Okay, you don't need to rub it in. Let's go. Moving on.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's good. I don't like the notion of when people say that titles shouldn't exist in or I'll just fight for the sake of fighting, or we don't need titles or that, because I think that diminishes the credibility of our sport, and you need something like a title to position it in a particular way. But I think the issue is, and the majority of us know it, and us three know it as well, is that there are titles which are just completely taking the piss. And I understand that sometimes it's hard because you're not always going to get the best two. You're not always going to get two people from completely two different sides of the world. But I think sometimes we're like completely the other way. And we know what we're talking about. Two people from the same country fighting for a world title who aren't even in the top 5 in that country. Like that's what's derailing the good stuff. And it's just, man, it's taking the piss. And I don't think promoters who are putting it on are realizing the damage that it does to our sport long term.
I think they do, man. I think they're fooling themselves, and either they don't care or they're just fooling themselves. And I went down there, I'm not doing titles, and I put that big poster for Rebellion. I see a point for a title, and I think everyone should have something. And I think that's the biggest struggle. Like, that was my whole thing with Roots and Road to Rebellion. Rebellion was that you'd progress, and then eventually I put world title fights on, and you could see people progress through it. But I think it's just got to the point now where, because there's so many and because people are just happy to do it, you kind of go, at the moment, it's quite meaningless. And you just can't get, even between the three of us, I don't think we could get down to who the two best fighters are, but I don't think the three of us would agree which title we should put up for it.
The disappointing thing for me is, like, you posted that thing, whether I agree or disagree with some of the stuff, but the amount of people in the industry commenting on it, high-fiving it, love-hearting it, and all that stuff, and then going out and just getting amongst it again is a little bit disappointing. I like what Kieran said, like, in the current climate, unless we've got two legitimate world-class top 10 fighters in a particular weight division, how on earth can you be having a world title in Australia? George Mann, Charlie Bob, yeah, cool. Top 10ers, mad, go for it. Like, but any other, I don't know, man. And it's frustrating. It's just seeing them pop up, and then you're just like, what? Like, where's the integrity from the people putting them on? The people accepting them, not always to blame, but sometimes, yeah. Like, what? I don't know. Like, as a trainer, I've turned down titles before just to say, like, why do we need it? Like, can we just fight? I know that my guy's had 6 fights. I know that there's a guy that's had 12 fights, and I wouldn't even match with my guy, same weight division. Why are we doing this? And then I look at guys like Ibi at the moment. Bloke's 57 kilos. He's wiped everyone off, and now he's at a really difficult level where he can't get to that level. But the poor bugger's looking at all these other battlers with fucking belts lined up and down their arms. I've had it with a few guys, but I don't know, maybe I've been a little bit too, I don't know, maybe I should take him so I can put it on the wall. I don't know.
I think the buck does come back to trainers sometimes. I do think more trainers need to say no. There's nothing wrong with saying we don't know, like, just make it a fight. There's not, I don't blame a fighter for wanting to win a title. I would never put it on the fighter, but I think as trainers, we have to be one step above. And if we want to improve the sport, I do think it's up to us. And it's up to us to explain to our fighter why. And I understand that difficult conversation when they're going, this person fights for a title, this person's fighting for a title, this person. It just, I mean, it's us, it's the promoters, it's, But
I also amateur titles. You guys have had enough amateur fights to get to the top of your state. Move on. Like, what? Why on earth? Like, we get it more here probably than any of you get in any other states, but we get the odd person still saying, I don't want to move and turn pro until I've got either an amateur world title or an Australian amateur title. And you're like, come on, man. Like, by the time you're getting to that stage, surely you're an entry-level pro, right? Like, you've done, time to move on, buddy. You know,
this is this is a thing I had, ongoing thing I used to have with jiu-jitsu people, because they've got the Mundials, which is the world championships, but they've got belt color world championships. So I don't think you can do white belt, but you can be the blue belt world champion. And I used to say, if you're literally the best blue belt in the world, shouldn't you be a purple belt?
Yeah.
And if you're the best brown belt in the world, aren't they just holding you back just so that you don't have to be a black? And it's like, if you're that good a champion amateur, that you're like world class, why haven't you turned pro? Why haven't you fought someone outside Queensland yet? And, you know, it is up to the trainers, I think, to say no, but I think it's the culture. Like, I remember when we did have Muay Thai at Kaizen years ago, right at the start, we had a couple of title fights and stuff because I was getting my head around what was happening around Melbourne and the titles. And then I got to the point where I just said to the guys, one of them said, I'd love to be one of those belts. I'm like, we're never going to fight for those. And we got offered it and we said no. And like Ben White got offered this Australian title fight against the bloke that I literally, anytime saw him fight outside of like this regional area in Victoria, would get knocked out. But somehow he won a title against somebody. And they're like, oh, would Ben fight him? I'm like, Ben will fight him, but we don't want the belt. And it goes, oh, no, it'd be good if we have the belt. I'm like, I'm telling you, we'll give you the belt back in the middle of the ring. It'll be embarrassing. And then they brought a Thai opponent out for the guy who I think must have been like the only Thai person in the world who'd never seen Muay Thai. And this bloke knocked him out in an 8-round fight for the Oceania Thai boxing title. 8-round Muay Thai fight. Like, it's...
The only way is for people to knock them back. The promoters, like, it just depends on where the promoter is at in their stage of their career too. Sometimes whether the promoter's still passionate, still enjoys the sport, or is just like, righto, here's a title because I know it's going to sell more tickets. And
it also, I mean, I did a podcast on it with Joshy on like, sometimes we get really confused between amateurs and pros and what athletes and what competition looks like. And so, and the lines get blended sometimes. Like, I've been to plenty of shows, they're clearly amateur fighters, but they're being treated like professionals. And there's walkout music, there's no padding, there's this, there's that. It's like their second fight, and there's a hype up, and they've got a big crowd, and it's just like way too over the top. Like, that's not to me an efficient pathway. It's like, why do we have in this country at the moment guys like George Mann and Max McVicker, who are incredibly talented for their age, because they came through a UK pathway where they had 100 amateur fights like boxing, like they do in boxing.
Yeah.
And then they've turned professional because they've come through that platform and that pathway. Like, but in Australia, we don't have that structure, and it's so, this state does this person does that, this person does this, and we just have no direction.
And I think that goes back, like, you know, what Andy said before, when you have a scenario like you're describing in Australia, where there isn't really a clear distinguishable amateur pro thing other than maybe 2-minute rounds versus 3-minute rounds, that's when you get confused as to why do you want to do this? Whereas if there is a clear distinction like boxing, where it's actually, okay, this is amateur, these are the rules, like what we're trying to do with Muay Thai Victoria, what they have in, like in the European UK system, they've got C class, B class, A class, kids with no head contact, all that stuff. They get to fight a lot. They don't get hurt. I understand that model, but you can have a mix of the two, I think, which is what we struggle with. It's like, oh, this guy's the world amateur champion. I'm like, man, I saw him fight 3-minute rounds 2 shows ago. Why is he fighting for a world amateur title?
Yep.
And ranked somehow internationally. Like, the only international rankings I know of, the WBC international rankings that you see like globally. And it's like, well, that guy's somehow ranked in that, but also just fought in Queensland for an amateur world title. How does that work?
It's going to get worse because of the borders as well, because there's no other option. They'll just make it up.
And I'm going to quite blanket statement in that if you have anything other than a WBC or a WMC world title, if you have won something other than that in the last little while, I'm going to argue, and I don't reckon it's that legit. I'm sorry, like I'm just going to blanket statement it there. Unless it's been a WBC or WMC world title in the past little while, I just don't see it being.
Look, tomorrow I could make the Sinoji Muay Thai Council, which I might, because I got time on my hands, and say, all right, well, I'm going to rematch Toby and Hamza, and I've got the money to put it on, and they'd win that belt.
Legitimate.
You're not going to say they're not that. But
it's a legitimate fight.
But the lead up to it and the ranking and the things the process you have to go to get that position, that's what becomes questionable.
That's what I mean. It's not the fight. Absolutely, would be a legitimate world title fight in any instance. Those two for sure. But I think I think having
more good people trying. Not necessarily good people, but more people keen on trying to do the right thing is a better way to manage it. And trainers and people trying to put their guys up for belts after 3 fights and whatnot. It's a little bit like, how you going? But I don't know. There's no way out. I'm sorry. I'm going to call it. There's no way out. Just like Sydney. We ain't going nowhere.
There is a way out. 5 of you outside together having a picnic.
You got your extra hour now. You got 2 hours now.
2 hours.
An exercise hour and a recreation hour. That's better than any maximum security prison, man. You're laughing.
My yard time. Yeah, happy days.
All right, guys. So, what international bout coming up are you guys most looking forward to?
This Saturday. Well, I don't know if it's live or not, but yeah.
I think it actually is.
It's pre-recorded, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, it's already happened.
Oh, yeah, because it was on the one where Summerpet was going to fight. Yeah, that's right.
One Chai and City Chai, yeah?
Chai. Yeah.
One Chai for me.
Yeah.
I think City Chai, like when you watched him with against Superbon and his last fight in one, it's, it just wasn't the same Sidichai of before. I think it's finally all the years of and rightfully so, all those years of that level competitions finally sort of caught up with him, and he's just started to slow down a little bit.
I just won injuries too, right?
Sorry?
Yeah. He's had a couple of pretty major injuries too, I think.
I just wonder though, on the flip side of it, what the slight difference in weight, because Sidichai is a bit bigger, obviously.
Yeah.
And the little gloves, like Tawanchai has been stopped by punches in the past, and Sidichai obviously had spent a lot of time on more of like a K1 and a kickboxing circuit through Glory and the like. Yes, he lost in that kickboxing fight to Superbon, obviously, but I just wonder if that extra bit of weight, being a bit used to those little gloves are such a different game. Like you can catch people, and I wonder if that might the weight and that might play in his favor slightly. I don't obviously Tawanchai is incredibly slick, but that's
higher level guys lately. I don't know, when was the last times I fought like Tawanchai pre-injury as well, still fighting top level ties. I don't know. It's going to be cool. Finally good to actually get a decent fight on. But we got to watch MMA the whole way up, or
Is it an ethnics card?
Yeah, I think it's like 4 MMA fights in the leader. Yeah, I think it's all MMA in
why
the
do they
leader.
do that?
Because that's the format.
Okay.
They've done a couple of they've done a couple of just super series cards, pure super series cards. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think maybe it's a bit hard for them to do at the moment. They maybe don't have as much access to
The full MMA card all the way up to the main.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think the smaller MMA gloves have kind of made the biggest differences in like the fights that you would expect to go one way, where there's been a surprise. It has been the puncher's chance little gloves that have come in. Then do you think some of the guys are struggling to adjust to the little gloves? Some dudes are like, it suits some guys obviously heaps better. And I think some of the guys, some of the way they defended punches and stuff before, it just isn't working as well.
It suits. I think it's okay for guys who like good Thai boxers who are used to sitting back a little bit and kicking a lot, right? They're not stuck in that range. Like when I started training Josh for his fights, and he's obviously known for walking forward, but it's like counterintuitive in that you would see his face after his fights, and he was just pummeled. But the two fights, with the exception of Same, where he obviously got out skill, but the Andy and the Japanese boy, where I made him stay back and kick and knee a lot more and stay out of that punching range. Like, it changes considerably. So I think the Thai boxers who are especially good kickers, I don't think it's a problem. But I think guys who favor wanting to walk forward and be aggressive, I think it can be, yeah.
Are they incentivizing guys to be more aggressive though? Like, is there any incentive, just like you're getting a general vibe that they want them to go to war more?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's the entertainment factor for the little gloves, but I don't think for us at least, we've never been told push forward. Had that.
And that could be it's pretty scary chucking them on, I reckon. If you look at some of the guys, even Gelpiak, he's been dropped a couple of times. Whether that's fear or not, as well as, like, if they're fighting with gloves, they're more than willing to take the punch for the kick.
Yeah.
But if they cop a good one, then it brings a whole different aspect to the game. Not that I necessarily like it or not, but yeah, this one's going to be good. I'm pretty pumped for this, to be honest.
So when's that? Is that this Saturday?
Friday, I think.
Friday.
I think they're usually Fridays.
Yeah. And then locally, I think the only local card we can think of coming up is Road to Muay Thai Grand Prix.
The four.
They announced today that it's not on the same night. It's like a Muay Lob.
Over two shows.
What's it called? Tournament style. League style. Yeah, which is cool.
Like an elimination.
Not sure. I think, was it 5 rounds, 5 threes, or 5 2?
5-3s.
5
2s, I think.
5 round fights. Sick.
Yeah.
5 round fights is good. Those girls are good.
Yeah. So who's in that? Tiff and
Tiff. There's Saxia, which is Seldy's girl, I think, who has been out for a little bit. There's another younger girl, I can't remember her name, but I think she's been out for a while as well, but she did quite well at IFMAs as a junior.
Yep.
And then you've got and Megan as well.
Megan.
And then obviously, because with Tiff pulling out.
Oh, is Tiff out?
Oh, really?
All right.
Yeah. Tiff's out.
Who's left?
So Yeah, I can't remember who the girl was that took her place.
Cooper, Danny. No, is that it?
No, Danny's, that's
Megan.
Here we go. Let's have a look. Oh, Allegra from our friend Tom Boyle's striking academy has taken Tiff's spot.
All right,
okay. Girl, I've never heard of Allegra, so I'm not sure.
Allegra. Is that the girl at 4B? She's strong, man.
Is she?
Yeah. Very physically fit. Like, yeah. So, if that's the one.
I guess it's now a bit, because I would have obviously, I think as most would have put Tiff as the favourite of that before her
for sure
having to pull out. So, well, the other girl I'm not sure of. Obviously, Megan's a solid competitor, and that Allegra I've never heard of. So I'm not.
Are the big boys still fighting?
Yeah, Jono's over there. So I think that's the only really other fight I know of is Jono versus Big Al.
Big Al. How do we see that one going? Anyone?
Sorry?
Takers on that one? How we see that one going? Comments?
Man, this is hard because they're both good friends. I'm good friends with Jono. Obviously, I'm good mates with Big Al, and the last 2 times he's come out here, cornered him in his fights because Blair hasn't been able to come down. I feel like if it was older Big Al, from 3 years ago when he used to go mental and he fought Jono, I feel like that would have been a lot worse fight for Jono than current Al. Because current Al's actually, when he came to Melbourne to fight on Peter Haddon's show, Roy, me, and Blair via Messenger were like, dude, chill out. Don't go out there and be like 2 rhinos trying to hump each other. So he fought kind of clean and technical, and he got a taste for it. And I think now he's gone right down that track. So I don't know if he fires up that dude hits like a truck, but I don't know what he's going to do. If he's going to go out there and try to be real technical or what.
Jono's got to do that to make that fight work for him, though, I reckon, man.
Yeah.
I think Al's really come of age technically too, and that Melbourne fight was he was deliberately trying to do that. He said that before when we went out for dinner and that. So I reckon he'll probably try and do the same thing, and if he fights that way, he'll win, I reckon.
And Roy would probably be embracing that quite a bit with his training now that Roy's taken over a lot of that as well, I would assume. And I don't know how much he had in the lead up to the Kieran and Zach fight, but using that as an example, because I don't know how long it was before that Roy took over, but for me, there was a big difference in that.
So I spoke to
versus the last one.
I spoke to Blair the other day about some of that stuff. And I was like, look, because how's Roy going? Because I'm like, man, as far as an Australian Muay Thai career goes, Roy's kind of the ideal for me. I'm like, he's fought pretty much everyone. He's had a couple of international fights. He's retired fairly young. You can still carry on a conversation. Everyone loves him. He hasn't had any falling outs, and now he's moved into a coaching role. And
Did you hear that podcast, man? That was big shout out to Shane and Hugh. He did so well on that podcast, and it was really awesome hearing from him. So,
good. Yeah. I have to listen to that too. But Blaise, I said, how's he going in his new role at the gym? And he goes, it's the best thing I've ever done. And he goes, he's really good. He's really into it. And he said, look, his style is a bit obviously different to what I always push, which was just go forward, forward, forward. He's a bit more, which I think it will be such a good balance, getting that mixed with Blair's sort of culture that he's put into that gym. It's I think it's going to be a perfect mix. And he said that was the plan they made, because they knew Zach would just expect Kieran to just walk forward like what you would expect. And he didn't. He was more tactical.
It was good. It was really good.
It was massive difference. Huge difference.
I don't think Big Al's going to go full mental gorilla smash. but I do think he's gonna go for it a little bit more, which might not be great for Jono, but hopefully they have a good fight.
I can't really remember. Like I know Jono fought in that whatever it was, the tough man. I can't remember what his fight was before that, nor can I remember what Al's last fight was. I feel like maybe a while between both, like a while since Al's fought, and then maybe a while since
Al fought on Prince Promotions here, and I think he's had one more fight over there. And I know he rematched Luke in WA, and I think he won the rematch. He's had a few. He's actually been relatively, because I remember when they called his fight record, I was like, shit, I thought you'd only had like 6 fights. Jono, he's had a couple of like comeback and little fights and go. He's been trying to kind of get back up and at him. He fought on Peter Haddon's show a couple of years ago. He fought on that 8-man, and then he went to Perth to fight Al, but then that was on the day of the lockdown, so he basically didn't get to do it.
Who's looking after him up in Darwin?
He's at Nick Siebert, so that's where I think he started.
Yep.
But I think he's going to Perth on his own, and I think Riddler's maybe looking after him, or he's training with Riddler's. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think the hard thing for Jono is to stay on top of his emotions and stuff when he fights. I think if he feels like if it's actually like a stylistic fight, I reckon if there's a little bit out of the crowd, Jono will try to make it a war because he wants to entertain people. And I think that's where it could be dangerous. But, he's had some fights here, like years ago in a kickboxing fight, he fought Ray, who was like a massive crowd favorite at Kings of Combat. And he like knocked him out, which no one had. So he can pull stuff out, and he'll randomly pull out I think he landed a jumping knee. But I think he's just had so many stops and starts and stuff. But I hope he has an okay time. And obviously, like I like both those guys. But
this weekend.
What's that? This weekend.
This Saturday, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, there we go. I have to be a little bit careful of the budget, man. We've got a bit of money flashing around.
You'll still buy my pay-per-view next week for $973, won't you? I got no crowd. How am I going to pay? Yeah. It'll be fine. All right, guys. Good chatting to you both. Anything you guys want to get off your chest about Andrew in particular, Kieran?
No, man. I mean, no, nothing. I think you should just join us though, and like pop your head down. Just straight down. How's your hairline? How's everything looking?
Look towards the camera and tilt your head
down.
Oh my goodness.
Like I feel like it's probably thinning a bit in the middle there. So you may as well just.
Well, while we're on our final shout out, so mullets for mental health. I get the full. Yeah, we're going the mullet next Wednesday. I think 1st September. So hosted by the Black Dog Institute. I think. Get behind it. We got a team of guys, Sydney Mully gang going. So jump in there, get amongst it. It's going to be a good cause. You guys should jump in and have a crack. You could do your Friar Tucks.
I'll just put my son's mullet in.
That'll be good.
All right, well, Kieran, I'd say you'll be the first one out. Hopefully next week, mate, and then us, and then Florida, Texas, and then New South Wales.
Yeah, and then New South Wales. Straight in dead last.
I'll get my 5 people out in the park. It's okay.
It makes me sad. It's funny. I'm okay with being locked down and suffering because I know he's in a worse situation. It's like that's the only thing I wake up every morning. I'm like, pretty cool.
I'll be right. Shout out to everyone in Sydney, man. We're far out. We've overtaken
doing a great
Melbourne.
job.
You've done a good job.
9 weeks.
If you could spread the popularity of Muay Thai as well as you spread COVID, it would be bigger than Thailand.
Oh my God. All right. I've had enough.
All right, boys. Peace out.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.